about to unfold for you an adventure in the world of science, a science that deals with the nature of living things.
We looked at how can plants survive if they're exposed to heat. Because, if you're an animal or a human, you can walk away, you can go somewhere in the shade. Plants cannot. So I realized how amazing plants are. They stand still, but they survive all these changes in the environment, and they actually not only survive, they thrive in a changing environment that can change many, many degrees over the course of a day. And so that sparked my interest, and I asked myself, how is that actually possible? My name is Wolfgang Busch. I'm a professor in Salk's Cellular and Molecular Plant Biology Laboratory, and also in the Integrative Biology Laboratory. I grew up in Germany. There was a pretty rural area in the center of Germany, in the western part of Germany where I grew up. It had beautiful natural settings, fields and forests. I really explored nature with friends, and my sisters went into the forest, climbed all the trees, explored the swamps, kind of almost drowned in a pond. We kind of broke through the ice once. And that, I think, sparked my interest in nature, even though I have to commit I wasn't interested in plants in particular, because at that time it was more the backdrop for my adventures. Plants, smelled good, looked very aesthetic, but I was much more fascinated by animals and technology at that time. Something that I started to do when I was around 9 was to read a lot. I think every 2 or 3 days I went into the public library and got another stack of books, and the librarian knew me by name, and I read everything. When I was in high school, I had this amazing biology teacher. She started to introduce the concept of molecular genetics and DNA and transcription, translation already very, very early. So that really inspired me to study biology. I started my undergrad in biology at the University of Tübingen, which is in the southwest of Germany. My main interest was in cell biology and genetics and microbiology first. I really got into plants when I had the opportunity to use a cutting-edge technology at that time, and that technology was called microarrays. I started to actually realize how interesting plants are, because we looked at how can plants survive if they're exposed to heat. And I realized that's actually pretty remarkable, because if you're an animal or a human, you can walk away, you can go somewhere in the shade. Plants cannot. They don't have a nervous system, they can't walk, they can't run. So how is that possible? And that really kind of lighted my fire in terms of trying to understand and being fascinated by plants. My journey to the Salk has been a long one. After I started my lab in Vienna, Austria, I had the opportunity 6 years later to apply for a Salk position in the Integrative Biology Laboratory. And so I applied, and I came here. I moved my whole lab from one continent to another continent, and I've been happy ever since. In my lab, we asked the question, we have different strains of a plant, and these different strains can have very different root growth. Some grow deep, some grow shallow, some respond very, very quickly to an environmental cue such as water or nutrients, and some don't. And so we have been pioneering approaches with which we can identify genetic variants and molecular mechanisms that underpin these differences. It also has impacts on a very large challenge that we face on our planet, and that is, how do we actually produce enough food, feed and fiber in the face of climate change? Something else that is also very important, has become more important, the Harnessing Plants initiative, is that we can not only learn, we can also change the world. We can make the world a better place. And we try to do this by engineering plants that are better in storing more carbon for longer to mitigate the climate crisis, something that I have been worried since middle school. We knew back then global warming will happen, but I never felt empowered or able to do something about it. But now we can actually leverage our science. This is an incredible motivator, and it's enormously powerful to think about that this will have a lasting impact on not only science, but also the world.